What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, I've got a couple of people in Discord, so I'll raise the mic on them, and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
We're all kind of wondering about, doesn't he?
I'm just a little skeptical about the whistleblower that he talks about.
Well, I mean, all of the other pieces there he's traceable, he's verifiable, he seems totally credible. He's pieced it all together in a way that's logical, and he then ties it within the law. The whistleblower bit, it is what it is at the moment. But all the other bits, it's like, if it smells like a dog and it barks like a dog and it shits like a dog, it probably is a dog.
I don't even think you need a whistleblower.
I don't think he needs a whistleblower either.
Good morning. I'll be the whistleblower.
Hey, Tenth, what did you think of that video?
Well, I watched it halfway, and I sent you a text about it, and then I told my wife we should watch this together. It was late at night, so we watched and listened to it just up to halfway almost. We're going to continue the rest today, but like I said, from all the other independent sources that have nothing to do with this guy, and my own, exactly what Neil said, we don't need a whistleblower, just my own observations of the foolishness of all this. He's spot on.
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about? Who are you talking about?
There's a lawyer that's a German-American speaking lawyer that's been called to the bar in California, I think he said, and also somewhere in Germany, Bavaria or somewhere like that. I might have got that wrong. But basically, he's an international lawyer that deals with fraud cases, like between international firms. And he's got involved in the COVID arguments. And with regards to the infection thing, this testing, is it the COR testing or whatever they call it? He's basically saying that this test that they're all doing, the swabbing, this massive amount of testing that they're doing, is not only raising false negatives, it's basically reifying the model that they want us to all adhere to. Because they're creating the pandemonium within the testing rather than whether or not there's a COVID or not. But what he's saying is that it's totally and utterly flawed. Because what it's doing is it's testing for broken signals in your DNA that are always there because we've all had a cold at some point in our life. And when you got rid of the cold, it's stored within your DNA so that it recognizes the pattern, so that the next time the pattern comes up with a cold, it starts to deal with it based on your previous experiences. In other words, our own immune system. And what he's saying is it's detecting every time you've had a cold in your life. And he said that we've all had a cold. So it's basically telling you that you've got a cold now by detecting previous colds in your own DNA. And he's saying it's completely bullshit. He said it's totally fallacious. It doesn't mean that you've got it now. It just means that you've had it at some point in your lifetime. And he said it doesn't mean that you're carrying anything at the moment, but they're treating it as though you've got the fucking lurgy. So therefore you need to self-isolate and all this. It's complete and utter. He calls it a fraud, literally a fraud. It's brilliant.
Okay.
Well, if he's genuine, he's going to get his ass killed, I would think.
Again, Ryan?
I was saying that if he's genuine, if he's real, he could end up getting himself killed.
Well, we're genuine here on Flat Earth, and we're not getting killed.
Yeah,
Watch
don't
out for them
start that.
Masons. They're going to get you.
Hey
Or
guys,
the unorthodox. They're going to get you.
Okay. I mean, my take on this is the magic trick's already over. It was over about 6 months ago. That's the first thing. The second thing is, in terms of what he's presenting, while it's fascinating and I'm sure potentially true, there's no scientific evidence for what's being claimed with maths and called science. That's what we expose here, and we tend to focus, obviously, on the flat earth aspect of science, but it's translatable to all. The method is identical regardless of what you're applying it to. So if you have a disease like scurvy, and you want to find out the cause of it, there's a method available for you to figure out the cause of that effect. Now, the first thing you need to observe is an effect. So if there's an effect to be observed, then perhaps you can show it me.
Hold on a second, Nathan. They're saying follow the science. The science says where it
I
is.
am.
You gotta
Neil,
follow the
what do you think I'm...
science.
Hold on. What do you think I'm doing? This is science,
I
Neil.
know.
Right, so follow the science. I'm asking for it, aren't I? That's the point. I'm asking, what's the science for this, Anthony? Not attacking you, Anthony, by the way.
He's saying that there is no science for it because he's saying what they're testing for.
Right. So universally, you open your eyes to the deception that is the nature of reality. That's a pretty all-encompassing term. Wouldn't you agree? There's a very deliberate reasoning behind the nature of reality being what we're discussing here, as opposed to flat Earth. I know the show's called Flat Earth Debate. That's, historical. But we are talking about the nature of reality, and we assess it with science when there's supposed to be, or claimed to be, a phenomena. Well, that's the first step. So that's what I need to see first. If there's science for this, what's the phenomena we're studying? You tell me.
They're pseudoscience. They should say follow the pseudoscience.
Right, they should say follow the pseudoscience, and viewers of this show, hopefully, some of them at least, will recognise that. What's the science for this, they might ask themselves, given that we ask the science for other pseudoscience realms. We say, what's your science? And they go, maths. And they give you their mathematics and their statistics, and you go, that's not science.
Do you know, the weather outside is absolutely horrendous, but I feel so much lighter after watching all of that. I really do, because I know everyone was feeling so desperate. And what a man, what a team, all of them. Now, Tony, what have been saying?
Is that your...
Parliament needs to be taken down. If they don't bow down...
Somebody's got a hot mic.
Yeah, someone hot mic. Is that someone actually joining in the conversation? Or is that Anthony? Anthony. Hello? Anthony? Jesus wept. Anthony, I can do nothing about this except restart the Hangout. Hello?
I'll see if I can send him a message.
Jesus wept.
He's very, very confident.
It's his conversation.
I know.
Just come on my show, destroy the entirety of the show by playing your video over the top of us, Anthony. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Sorry, you asking me something?
Yeah, you're destroying my show.
Oh, shit, sorry.
Thank you very much. I can't do anything about it. If you're doing that, I can't control you. I can't stick you on mute.
I'm sorry, Nathan. I didn't realise you could hear that.
Yeah,
well, at least we got science for this.
Show grinds to a halt while you watch a video.
Do we have science for it, Nathan?
Sorry. Yeah, this was your subject, Anthony.
Talking very low. I didn't realise.
Notice this is Anthony's subject. It's not even mine. I hate this subject. Bug enough to watch.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
You brought it up.
Funny.
It's your subject. You were the one telling us. They just disappear halfway through the conversation to watch a video. How rude. That's typical Anthony, by the way. This is not out of the ordinary.
That's
no,
funny,
it's
man.
Just start a little fire and see where it goes, and then once there's a conversation, then I just back out of it and then carry on as normal.
It's not. I have absolutely no interest in this conversation. Right, February, I went, "What's the scientific evidence?" Looked for it, there wasn't any. Then there was law changes, and I shit my pants. Moaned about it. Nobody cared. They all took the piss out of me. I got used to the new normal then, pretty much within a day, and I haven't really given it any consideration since. Over the next, 8 months, everyone else has caught up. Me, I'm just sat here laughing about the whole thing. Get used to it, normies, and everyone else. The new normal's here, that's it. It was done months ago. Why do you think we could talk about this now without having our videos taken down? Magic trick's over. The rabbit's already been pulled out of the hat. Everyone's gasped, and they're all fucked off out of the theatre now. What are you going to do about it now? You're going to get that rabbit back in the hat? No, you're going to be joking.
I do remember that, though, Nathan. You were saying something about it.
What, 8 months ago? Yeah, I was. And for a very brief moment, I was very scared. I won't lie, like everyone else is currently. And the thing is, with all these protests and marches, what do you think you're going to achieve? Do you think you're going to change the general public's fear of the lurgy?
No. It's to make people realise that there's an issue that they didn't realise was an issue before. So it's to raise awareness, because once you rouse the beast is the people, isn't it? So once the people are aroused and they're paying attention, then things happen. But until they get roused and they wake up, then there's not a lot that can happen because everybody's in blissful ignorant sleep.
Two issues with that. In my analogy, you're doing it outside the theatre. Now, if the theatre in this example is television, broadcast worldwide, and you're trying to, outside the theatre, as everyone's dispersed from the trick, gather up a small handful of people who had seen the trick and try and convince them that the trick isn't real. Number one, the people have already been convinced. They've already had the magic trick work on them. So, half the people you're trying to appeal to want the thing you're trying to get rid of. They want it because the magic trick's already worked. The general public have already had what you're trying to describe done to them by the powers that should not be. That trick is over.
What was your second point?
What did I say? It's outside the theatre. And the trick's already done. The point one is the trick's already over. So it's a big difference between you inside the theatre, at the back of the theatre, trying to say this is a magic trick going on. That's when you get shut down, right? Because you're inside the theatre while the trick's being done. And anybody who tried to talk about the magic trick while the magic trick was being done was shut down pretty sharpish, weren't they?
Yeah.
On that note, let's talk about the other trick. No drift, no reference frames, no geometric horizon, no earth curve, no outer space. We have gas pressure. How about that trick?
We were talking about you, Anthony, in that regard, actually. So we were coming up with who we can attribute to what. So you got, gas pressure without a container, Thunderfoot with bouncy balls go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls in a fish tank. Well, gas go down, go boom, boom, rather. You've then got Simon Dan now attributed to the lack of drift. Thanks, Dan, no drift. And we, on your behalf, said George Musa for gravity. I just wanted to check if you would actually go along with that, because it's your subject.
Yeah, George Musa and the gravity argument is probably the best one because of how much Fight the Flat Earth has played up on it. If he hadn't played up on it and just, brushed it off like everybody else tends to on their side, then it wouldn't have any of the weight with it that it currently has. Because obviously, Fight the Flat Earth, gravity is his little baby as well. If you're a bald heart, and that's what he picks up on, and he doesn't want George Musa telling him that gravity. What's his name? Einstein snaps the wand of Newtonian physics in two. He wants there to be a force there, which is the reason why he's moved away from Einsteinian general relativity more in towards the entropic force that Dr. Eric Verlinde talks about from the University of Amsterdam. But to answer your question directly, absolutely, he's going to always, for me, he's always going to be the citation that I use because I know it triggers Craig the most. Selfish as that may be, it's still a really valid point that is so pertinent that we can't really move away from it ever.
Distance to the Sun hasn't had anybody sort of pegged to that particular subject. Can you think of anybody we can tie to it?
Only Jimmy.
Jimmy. Who?
I know he's not a real person, but it was the funniest ever when he read that thing, The Distance to the Sun, and he totally lied about it. But other than that, we haven't got anybody else.
Yeah, and you were waiting forever for someone to come in and mention Huygens.
Yeah. He came in and mentioned Huygens, and if you listen really carefully on that hangout in question, you could hear me scrambling from the sofa because I was laying on the sofa in the background, and I'm like, oh, he's just said the keyword, because obviously gravity is a keyword, axial rotation is a keyword. He'd said Huygens, so I'm scrambling in the background to get to the mic, and you can almost hear me dashing over the table, and I was like, well, what did you just say? Did you just say Christine Huygens kind of thing? Because I'm all flummoxed because somebody's finally said it. And obviously, the next conversation we all saw Jimmy making shit up, and it was brilliant. But I mean, we need somebody to pin that one on. Yeah, we don't have anybody.
No, we don't. I mean, yeah, all the major ones we've got covered. I mean, to be perfectly brutal, that you want the top 3 covered and gravity.
Yeah. The top 3 and gravity. Why is gravity sitting in 4th? I'd have gravity in the top 2 myself.
Mm. Yeah.
What's the top 3 if gravity's not one of the top 3?
So down one. A new entry. It's not really a new entry anymore because it's been around for 8 months. But the Black Swan is number 1 because the claim is Earth's a sphere. The Black Swan debunks Earth being a sphere. So that's number 1.
Well, it debunks the horizon being a physical edge that boats go over, right?
Earth being a sphere, you mean?
Oh, well, I suppose, but it's better to be more specific and precise than inferred.
Take the conditional statement of modus tollens. What's the first conditional statement of the modus tollens argument?
If Earth is a sphere.
Bagooya! There it is. So, number 1. Black Swan.
So we've got Black Swan. What's the next one?
Gas pressure without a container. Former number 1, down 1 at number 2. How can you have gas pressure without a container? Without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote, conspiracy cats. Gas does not go down.
I still think that's number 1.
Say again? You put that as number 1?
I still think that one's number 1.
Well, I want to know what number 3 is now, because if it's got to be better than gravity and not as good as gas pressure and Black Swan. It's like that's a tall order to get. What's number 3?
Coriolis effect.
Yeah, it's too difficult to argue, though. It can't be in number 3 because it's too difficult to argue. It's convoluted. It's double speak to death.
I realise, right, that the most difficult argument to get a grip on and argue is Coriolis effect, by far, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, I realise it's now been attributed to me as my argument in the same way gravity's been attributed to you as your argument. I don't like that because it's a really difficult argument to have because it's so convoluted. Now, we do at the point now where the convolution is them asserting that we don't have 2 reference frames, and it's come to the point where we've gone, hang on, you're arguing for there not being 2 reference frames, but we don't make that claim. We don't need reference frames. Yeah. That's something that's happened in the last few days and has been attributed to Simon Dan. Thanks, Dan, no drift, right? So when we say there's no drift, Earth isn't turning under a plane, and they say we shouldn't see any drift, they then take that as us asserting that we should. And it's like, hang on, how has that happened? That's the trick.
Yeah. It's doublespeak. There's 4 positions with the Coriolis. With all arguments, there's 4 positions. There's the Earth's a ball, and then there's the supporting argument. The Earth's not a ball, and then there's a supporting argument. The Earth's flat, and then there's a supporting argument. And the Earth's not flat, and then there's a supporting argument. And you don't really notice it in most topics apart from Coriolis, because they will always argue one of the other 3. So if they're arguing that Earth's a ball and then giving the supporting argument, and then we say the Earth's not a ball and then giving the supporting argument, they will then deliberately argue, well, the Earth's not flat and give a supporting argument, but not address the first point, which was the Earth's a ball, and then deal with the supporting argument. So it's continuously all over the place when you're trying to work out what's their angle on this. And once you realize their angle, you've then got to quickly formulate the language to be able to address it. And the conversation moves that fast that it's so difficult to keep up with it. And fundamentally, I mean, it's the basic definition of, it's like with everything, it's the basic definition of Coriolis. You need 2 reference frames. You need something rotating and then something not rotating and then the perspective from both. And then that's basically it. But when you try and apply that, they'll double speak with it and then say, well, we don't need 2 rotation frames of reference because we've got infinite frames of reference and all this nonsense. And it's pure double speak, confusion. What they do with the Coriolis arguments is simple. If you can't persuade them or convince them, confuse them. And that's what they do. And I realize that, and I just leave Nathan to it and I sit back and smile. But when you listen to it, if you try and dilute it or try and understand it in your mind and break it down into its sections, it's always one of the 4 arguments that I've just said. It's a ball and then the supporting evidence. It's flat and it's supporting evidence. It's not a ball and supporting evidence. It's not flat and supporting evidence. They'll always apply one of them. And once you get them cornered on one, they'll move to the other as a distraction. And we're all over the place with it. It's really difficult to argue, but you're right. Fundamentally, Coriolis is an absolute killer for them because if pendulums prove the Earth's turning, then planes have got to turn to planes have got to get there faster. Oh no, because they only apply when they go north to south. It doesn't apply when it goes east to west. Get lost. It's just a ridiculous argument, but they can't win, so they've got to confuse the hell out of it.
I've always liked it from the beginning. I never, with the people I talk to, forget the trolls and the deniers who come to the show. For me, it's always been easy. If the Earth is turning, then it's always turning when something's in the initial reference frame. And I get them to agree on that. They have to agree on that. Once they agree on that, then we go to why our flight's not shortened? How come the drone is not? How come a continent's not coming towards your drone? And their eyes go to the back of the sockets.
No, they have to agree that it's an optical illusion first.
Well, hang
Yeah,
on.
they don't like that.
But when we come to Rumpus's and Simon Dan's, now we got them saying your reference frames are ruined, and it's like, okay, so no drift. I mean, it's nonsense.
Yeah, we're going to need an answer on that. I mean, a few of the trolls have been saying you've been making videos about this all week. It's like, I haven't dragged this out. I've been tweeted by Dan telling me that my reference frames, I haven't got any reference frames. I'm not claiming anything with reference frames. But you are, Globe Believers, you and your reference frames have been ruined, according to Simon Dan. That's a quote from Simon Dan to me. Now, my question is, whose reference frames are ruined? Because I don't have any. So that's going to need some explanation. Why are you showing something without drift when I don't claim things should drift? The Globe claims things should drift. So who's Simon Dan debunking? Now, bearing in mind, this is my response to him tweeting me. So anyone saying, oh, this has gone on for a long time. Well, so far, my response from Dan has been, you don't understand. Okay, whether or not that's the case, explain it then. Whose reference frames? I haven't got any. So, I don't understand. Fine. Tell us whose reference frames you're talking about. Because I don't need any to claim Earth spinning underneath. You do. Secondly, Earth spinning underneath creates drift at 15 degrees an hour according to the Globe Earth claim. Dan's showing examples with no drift. So why is he showing me examples with no drift when I make no claims about needing or not needing drift? Only Globe Believers need drift, and Dan's showing none of it. So that all needs explaining, and I'm not going to let it go. I don't mind if this lasts all year. I'll make videos about Dan daily until he explains whose reference frames he's tweeted me about. Because they need them on the Globe side to claim Earth spinning underneath to cause this deflection, to cause this precession, to cause this claimed deviation, this optical illusion of things seeming to curve when they're not. And you're not going to get away with saying, well, they don't curve because they're moving with Earth, when the very claim you're making is that they do seem to drift. And that requires reference frames that Dan says are ruined. That's going to need explaining. So if you're wondering why I'm going on and on and on about it, I wouldn't be if it wasn't for things like Rumpus coming in and defending this and telling me I'm misrepresenting Dan's quote over and over and over and over again to censor anything that's being talked about in that regard. Now, if I'm misquoting him, and then when I come to actually quote him, quote, you and your reference frames have been ruined, end quote, Simon Dan, what was my response from the fundy lawyer Rumpus? I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to these reference frames. It's a quote he told me I misrepresented him on. Well, if you're not going to realise you've got your hook in a very big fish when that happens, then you're an idiot. Why would you ever let this fish back in the pond? You wouldn't, yeah? Simon Dan is my little dangling fish. Now, I'm not going to let him back in the pond. I'm going to roast him and eat him. Yum, 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 yum. Simon Dan has messed up in a big, massive way. Yeah? He's told us that our reference frames are ruined, and we haven't got any. Yeah? You think I'm going to let that go? Nah. It's going to be laboured indefinitely. Bit like, what's his name? Thunderfoot Clown. Do you think we're ever going to let that fish back in the pond? Gas go down, go boom boom. Every time it comes to me holding a funded task like Rumpus on Friday, how do you weigh a gas, Rumpus? Does it go down, go boom boom? Like bouncy balls in a fish tank, as asserted by Thunderfoot? No. Absolutely without question, the response from the Rumpus, it needs a container, and it expands in all directions. Yes, yes, it does, he agrees. Not down, go boom boom. Again, maybe lecture me about how long I've been going on about Thunderfoot. Yeah, I will. I'll go on about him indefinitely. Like Musa. So yeah, moan that I'm going on about Simon Dan like I've got a thing for him. Yeah. Nice rebuttal. Quote, Simon Dan, you and your reference frames have been ruined. That's you, fundies with a globe belief, and your reference frames that you need to claim drift have been ruined according to Simon Dan. Kudos, Dan, no drift. This is never going away.
His only answer to that is you do not know what the video is trying to say.
You don't understand. Yeah, His rebuttal so far is, you don't understand what the tweet you sent me about you and your reference frames being ruined. No, I don't understand that. I don't have any, so it makes no sense to me why you'd send it me. That bit I don't understand. Why you'd send me something that debunks Neil deGrasse Tyson's claim that you do have 2 reference frames and drift. Further to that, I don't understand why you'd send me an example without drift, because I don't claim drift. So yeah, I don't understand that, Dan. That's what I'm asking you to explain. And you're just telling me I don't understand why you'd send me something that debunks a globe claim. No, I don't understand that, Dan. Why would you send me something that debunks a claim only globeheads make? That makes no sense. Why would you send me an example of a man not drifting when the globe has a absolutely ascertained, held by the priesthood claim that we do have drift? Yeah, I don't understand that, Dan, but that's all he said. You don't understand. No, I don't. Why would you send me something that's debunking globe claims? I don't understand. And if you can tell me, then maybe I'll let it go. Bearing in mind you've tweeted me about you and your reference frames being ruined.
Well, even his troll followers are telling him to ignore you. They're all scared.
Yeah, tell me to ignore me, but the trolls in my comments are saying you got a thing for Simon Dan. What's it been, 10 videos? Yeah, it has. Maybe a response is in order. Further to LOL, another Dan reply. And, oh, there was another one, wasn't there? Bearing in mind Dan's telling me reference frames ruined and showing me an example of a man being pulled by a tractor and not drifting, he's told Rumpus as a reply in this show that he does believe the drift. That's another problem. Showing examples of no drift, telling me reference frames ruined, well, you need them to claim drift, but then telling Rumpus that he believes it. That's a bit of a contradiction there, Dan. If you believe it, why show me not happening? Makes no sense. I'd ignore this, though. Ignore it, stick your head in the sand, maybe it'll go away. Maybe on the 100th video saying, Dan, whose reference frames are ruined? Where's the drift at 15 degrees an hour? And him, failing for a 50th time to say, well, would you expect to see drift in my example without drift? Would you expect to see Earth turning underneath? No, Dan, I don't claim that. But Neil deGrasse Tyson does, doesn't he, with drift and reference frames that you say are ruined? That's going to need an explanation. And this ain't going away until we get one. You don't understand isn't going to cut it. LOL isn't going to cut it. And telling Rumpus that you do believe the drift is going to be highlighted. So if you believe the drift, why are you sending a man not drifting? And if you believe the drift that needs reference frames to be demonstrated, whose reference frames are ruined? We're going to need answers to this, Dan. And you're not going to give them, because you can't. There isn't any drift. Earth isn't turning underneath in a second reference frame. Earth isn't turning. If it did, there'd be drift. And you're not showing it. Why are you not showing it? Well, because there isn't any, contrary to your claim that there is. So that's embarrassing. The reference frames needed to claim the 15 degrees an hour drift that's supposed to be proving Earth turns underneath. Dan says the reference frames are ruined. Not mine, I don't have any.
Well, that LOL sounds like a nervous laugh.
Holy fuck, Nathan, you've got big lungs. He's starting the show now anyway.
Got 1 more minute.
By the way, just whilst he's starting the show, if Simon Dan does join the chat, I'll be timing the bastard out to encourage him to get on the panel. Support me, guys, because if he creates the rule that he won't join chats, he won't join panels, that makes him a snowflake. So he gets a snowflake rule just for him, and that means he just doesn't get to speak.
Yeah, I agree. I read the context. Sorry, I didn't start the show. I don't mind starting a couple of minutes late just to discuss this. So, absolutely. People were saying, he's being timed out for no reason. And then we went back through the comments, looked at what it said. Useful, one of the comments, actually, Anthony, which is at the time why I said, well, I don't agree with Anthony timing him out. If he wants to make his comments from the chat, then so be it. But even the guy who was criticising you timing him out said he's a right coward for not joining. And I was like, yeah, well, let's have a look at the context. So I went back, read through it, and I'm like, no, I totally agree with him. You know, he's being called on a mistake he's made. He's proactively contacted me about this. So, you know, what, should I go to him now? No, fuck that. You want to challenge it, you get your ass in here and you challenge it. It's a public show. This isn't an echo chamber, as much as people like to criticise it for being exactly that, when it's got a public link. Oh, shit, actually, I've said that. I think the link might be broken, so there's going to be a delayed start while I figure out from Betty if she sent me a replacement. Just talk amongst yourselves, because the live show is not going to start, because I'm not going to say, click the public link now I know that there isn't one or there's been an issue.
Oh, all right.
Oh, I've got one.
wondering.
I've got it. She sent it me. Perfect.
I hope mind warped. Not seen you for a while.
Hey man, how you going? It's been a while. It's been a while.
Good to see you back.
Thank you.
Once you go flat, you can't go back.
We have enough.
Why would you
podcasts.
want to go back to a ball?
No, he just took a sabbatical.
I took a break. Yeah, gets to you after a while.
Oh, a break.
What have I actually been doing? Oh, is this live or are we just?
We're
Yeah,
not live
yeah,
yet. I'm
live.
trying to
It's
figure out how to
pre-show.
put the join
Oh, okay.
link into the comments, and I don't know how to do it now. They've changed the system, so there's going to be a delay. It's just tough.
Okay. I was going to tell you what I've been up to, but if
Well, you can do now. He's just getting ready to fire up the Quattro.
oh yeah.
Yeah, fire
So
away.
basically, what I've been doing is a whole lot of computer shops around me and like hardware stores where they get the older power dual batteries and laptop batteries that have failed. And a lot of the time, it's they're 18650 cells, and probably about 80% of the cells are still good. It's just like you get one that dies in the battery pack, and the whole thing dies. So I'm recycling them and building a power wall for my shed that's running off of a solar grid. So I've been
That's
I'm
cool.
up to I'm up to 650 cells, which I've been running through like testing systems with the Opus chargers. And I've made a few little portable little packs and stuff like that, it's been fun. Yeah,
Cool, man.
I'll show you one if you want. I'll turn my camera on.
After the show, though, you are like literally hijacking a show.
Oh,
No, it's fine.
really?
I'd rather
Okay.
he was chatting, because I can't figure this out. I can't find where the
Oh,
where the info box is for the live show. I just cannot find it.
Do you want a screen share, Nathan? I'll tell you where it is.
No, I don't, because it's going out to the audience. Just chat amongst yourselves.
this
Oh,
I
is
found
what
it.
I
I
made.
found it. I
Is
found it.
a 12S3P with an inverter on it,
Yeah.
and it can run a TV for 3 days. It's just out of secondhand batteries. It's fun.
That's fucking ace.
Wow.
So I guess most of the laptop batteries are in a series. If one of them goes down, they all go down. Presumably that makes them in a series, right? Rather than a parallel.
Hmm?
He's
By the way,
dropped.
I think he dropped.
What? Nathan didn't drop?
No, mine warp dropped.
Oh my!
He'll
Yeah.
be back. He'll be back.
Hey Tony, great video you uploaded, man.
It's fucking good, isn't it? It's a really good video.
So that guy's like pretty well dug in. Like he's
I
got
hope you
it.
shared it a real bit, Arwin.
I knew you were going to appreciate that, Alwyn. I knew it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Neil, who we've got here, Mind Warped, Flatzoid, Arwin, and 10th Man in G+, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good afternoon.
Let's get it on.
Had a slight issue with the join link not being in the info box for some unknown reason, so that's why the show's a little bit late, if anybody was wondering. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Can we just double check that we are going to finish at 7 minutes past 3 and not 3?
You want to know if there's going to be extra time added on?
Yeah, we want compensating for your inadequacies.
Compensate.
Bloody lawyers.
Difficulty.
Did you notice how he's not answered the question? Typical baller.
There'll be 4 more minutes. That's what there'll be.
But it's already 3 o'clock here.
You got to
it's like-
compensate for that
it's-
quick after show Friday.
Yeah, there's a
Hey,
full-on
Mind
after
Warp,
show.
what's the weather like in the southern hemisphere?
It's begging the question. There is no hemisphere.
But I want to know.
You want to know? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah, nice and warm. 28 degrees Celsius, something like that.
What is it like? Is it
No rain.
springtime? Or
It is.
Why are we talking about weather?
Because we've just gone past the equinox.
There was a surprise question.
I'm just
no,
double
it's-
checking.
Just because we've just
It's
gone past
spring,
the equinox, and there's obviously a sharp transition after the equinox. So for us, it goes from, hey, it's still kind of summer, and then a week after the equinox, Jesus, it's cold. And in in that part of the world, it's the complete opposite. So you go from, although you're never really cold there, but you go from your cold spell, if you will, into nice spring weather, and you're high 20s, and it's lovely.
Well,
guys
I've got
are
to
lucky.
admit though, from being in Australia, usually you get like summer. Oh my god, it's freaking 40, 45 degrees Celsius, and then it cools down for the rest of the year. But the past 12 months, it's all pretty much been the same. Like it's been pretty dry, but it hasn't been hot. There's been bugger all rain, but it's been quite good weather. It just really doesn't seem like there's any seasons anymore.
How does it work?
Weird.
Yeah, it's strange.
Very strange. Very
Any
interesting.
evidence of axial rotation
gonna say,
of the
let's-
Earth's variety?
Perfect. Yes, Anthony. Any evidence of axial rotation?
The weather.
Neil, somebody slap him.
Axial rotation. Oh,
Pendulums, Nathan.
spinning.
God.
Does the weather
Tornadoes and
prove that, though? I don't
hurricanes.
think it does.
One at a time.
Tornadoes, hurricanes caused by the weather.
Pendulums, moron.
One at a
Coriolis
time. One at a
effect.
time. Right ahead. Hurricanes. Right. Hurricanes have actual spin directions. Coriolis effect, which is what would be the use in that example, is not actual deflection. You turning underneath something and observing it. So you've got to be turning underneath it, not it turning over you, as in the case of the hurricane. That's actual spin direction. You turning underneath something travelling in, for the sake of argument, a straight line, and watching it seem to curve because you turn underneath. That's Coriolis. So hurricanes, water spinning down toilets, that's not Coriolis.
But hurricane winds spin in.
Sorry, I was
straight
just laughing
lines.
at that meme of you slapping.
Meme of me slapping
Just
who?
come up on the screen.
Slapping
Yeah,
Neil?
It's so good. I love that.
I didn't see it. What meme of me slapping who?
I've not seen that before. That's good.
You're not telling me what it is.
Well,
Clearly, we're not going to get let in on the joke. Anyway, moving on. So hurricanes
Hey.
have actual spin directions. They're not you turning underneath, seeing something seem to make a curved path, but actually travelling straight. Those actually have curved paths. Hurricanes. Right, who was next?
Yeah.
Anthony.
yeah. Well,
Go on.
can you guys hear
Flatfoot.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Flatzoid. Go on. Go on.
Yeah.
Maybe I should scream. I'm saying
No.
they're telling me you shouldn't expect to see deviation with a balloon. So that means no Coriolis then?
Yeah, so they're saying no drift. You wouldn't expect to see Earth turning underneath as a second reference frame. All right, so no drift then. What the hell was Bob Nodell supposed to be proving? I thought you all told us we had 15 degrees an hour drift, second reference frame. That's what's supposed to prove Earth spins. Wouldn't deviate. So no proof Earth spins then. Excellent. Thanks, Flatzoid.
Can
Simon
I play
Dan ruined
devil's advocate
Bob
because I've been
proof.
gone for a while? What are you referring to?
Coriolis drift. They claim Earth turns underneath. So you have a pendulum, which is what I was going to go on to next with Anthony, and it's claimed that Earth turns underneath the pendulum in a second reference frame. But yet when you show it with the balloon, apparently Earth doesn't turn underneath. It'll turn under a pendulum and a gyro, but it won't turn underneath anything else, apparently. No drift is what we keep getting told. Now, why are we being told no drift? It's like, do we claim drift? You're the ones claiming drift.
So are they claiming like the wind or?
They claim Earth turns underneath. But yet when we point out that it doesn't, they tell us no drift. So Earth doesn't turn underneath then, no drift. But you're claiming there is. So who claims drift? Globers. And when we point out there isn't any, what do they tell us? No drift. Well, we weren't claiming it, you were. So you're debunking your own claim of drift then? So Earth doesn't turn under the balloon, no drift, no second reference frame. Well, then you haven't got a proof Earth's turning. Because that's the supposed proof we turn. Earth turning underneath as a second reference frame, things seeming to drift because we're turning underneath them. That's called Coriolis effect. That's what they claim. But then you point out they haven't got it, and they say we haven't got it. Okay, so you debunked your own claim, fundies. Well done.
Hold on, Nathan. But they're not really claiming drift anymore. The reference frames have been ruined, but they still believe there is drift, though.
That's correct, Darwin. Like Simon Dan, he shows us how there's no drift, and he even gives us an example of there not being any drift. And we say, Dan, we're not claiming drift. What are you debunking here exactly? And he has to have it pointed out by someone like Rumpus, some low-level scumbag, that he needs to be believing in drift. So Dan tells us from the comments, not that he'd come in here as an abject coward, but from the comments he's telling us he believes the drift that he's not showing and claims the reference frames used to demonstrate it are ruined. But he believes it. So the bottom line here is the fundies claim they've got drift. We point out that they haven't got drift. And they'll say, we haven't got drift. And even show us them not having drift. And then tell us that they still believe it.
Yeah, they claim the Earth and atmosphere moves as one.
Yeah, the begging the question fallacy that's pissed in the face of the fact that we have multiple directions of surface wind and gas is unbonded, doesn't get trapped by Velcro and then pulled along in one direction. That's absurd. We have winds in all directions. Number one, no, you don't have Velcroed atmosphere. Number two, atmosphere is a begging the question and an oxymoron. Sphere-shaped air? No, air doesn't take the shape of a sphere. So no, just air, which is, thirdly, unbonded. So yeah, it's just moving randomly in all directions. The fact that we have pressure differentials moving it around also move it around in different directions, not moving with a presupposition that Earth's turning with it, and this absurd notion that atmosphere, begging the question oxymoron, can move with a presupposition that Earth's turning, and that wouldn't give you drift. Neil deGrasse Tyson and snipers apparently claim drift. Earth turning underneath. That's what we're supposed to have. We're supposed to have Coriolis effect, and we get this convoluted begging the question fallacy about how they're travelling together when they assume they're travelling in the face of multiple directions of surface winds. Again, debunking their own claim we have drift. So if they travel together, no drift. Who's claiming the drift you're debunking? Not us!
So Flatzoid and me probably know the most about this. It's called the Roaring 40s. Have you guys heard of it?
We're not claiming
Roaring
anything in
20s,
this
I heard
regard.
you,
I'll just say that again. I don't need to detail the explanation for anything to do with the multiple directions of surface winds, the lack of drift, the reference. None of these are our claims. So why are we into explaining how the wind works? I don't care. I'm not making any claim in that regard, so I don't have to explain it.
No, I'm debunking. Like, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, multiple directions of surface winds, but their claim in that regard debunks drift. So they say it travels together. Well, then no drift. You're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour drift to prove it spins, and you're saying the only proof you've got it spins is debunked by the claim that I assume it's all travelling together when that can't possibly be the case. And it's a begging the question fallacy that flies in the face of gas behaviour, and it doesn't give you drift at 15 degrees an hour. It flies in the face of that. Your angular momentum being retained, that doesn't give you drift, fundies. And we're not claiming drift to have it debunked. You are. So when you tell us it travels as one, you're debunking your own side's claim that you've got drift. Because you haven't. There is no drift. Otherwise, why would you be justifying there being no drift when there's supposed to be 15 degrees an hour of it? But this all come to a head thanks to Simon Dan. I'm going to be focusing on this indefinitely. A few of the fundies out there seem to take an objection to me constantly barking on about Simon Dan debunking Earth spinning. Yeah, I'm going to labour that point indefinitely. Simon Dan is now permanently tarred with this, like Musa's tarred with gravity not being a force. Indefinitely, permanently, tarred with that nonsense. Gravity's not a force, George Musa. Gas go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls in a fish tank when debunking the notion that space is fake because the gas would fill it. Yeah, Thunderfoot Clown's always going to be tarred with that. And Simon Dan's always going to be tarred with there being no drift. And you claim it, not us. So thanks, Dan, no drift.
Get your stuff together, guys.
Yeah,
Get your stuff together.
Can I bring up a really funny fact about pilots?
Yeah, he's ruining his own reference frames, Neil.
So, I really want to bring up a funny fact about pilots, right? How they say that, we don't have to just about anything, the globe, everything like that. But do you know why most airlines have 2 pilots?
What's this got to do with Coriolis? This has nothing to do with Coriolis. Coriolis is observed from the ground if you're on a roundabout and something's not attached to it. So you spin underneath. So what the plane does is irrelevant. How many pilots it's got is irrelevant. That's taking place in a reference frame that's not actually doing the thing you're observing in the effect. Coriolis is you turning underneath, observing something, not actually doing something, just seeming to, because you're turning underneath it. So this is pointless. Why detail what the plane's doing when it's sod all to do with Coriolis, which is their claim? They claim drift because you turn underneath. And what the pilot does is irrelevant of that. Like, it makes absolutely no difference. It doesn't matter what the pilot's doing or the plane's doing. It's what you observe of the plane not actually doing. And why are you observing it not actually doing that? Because it's claimed you're turning underneath it on a spinning Earth. And that not actually doing something is drift. And the only reason you see that not actually drifting is because it's claimed you're turning underneath, and that shortens flight times. Because if you're turning underneath aeroplanes, which obviously aren't attached, you've got shortened flight times. Now, us pointing that out leads to them saying, oh, no drift, we wouldn't expect it. It's like you're the only ones claiming it. But as I say, mind warped. The plane and its trajectory and what the pilots are doing and what's nothing to do with Coriolis effect and the claim we're turning underneath stuff. That's what Coriolis effect actually is. So it really isn't that relevant to it. So, yeah. What's your name? Mind warped. Can you just repeat my last sentence, mind warped?
Can I repeat? Yeah. I'll just be quiet.
Yeah. What's happening is that you're doing what Rumpus does. So I'm gated. When I'm talking, you're not going to talk through me, but you are.
Yeah, I can't hear Nathan that way either.
I'm going to ask you politely, Flatsoid. Then if you do it in this show again, I'm going to remove you from the Skype call so you can never join this hangout again. I said this to you last time.
You mean Flatsoid or Mindwarp?
You're rumpusing G+. That's what you're doing. Am I correct, other people on G+?
Yeah, Mindwarp.
Yeah, it's kind of a shit show.
Not from my end. From my end and the audience's end, they can actually hear me. But unfortunately, Mindwarp's decided that you guys in the G+ channel aren't going to hear a single word I say, and he's going to rumpus every single word of what I say. Regardless of me now telling him twice to stop talking when I'm talking, he's still doing it. Why are you doing that, Mindwarped?
Doing what?
To be fair to him, I don't think he realises there's a bit of a lag. So every time he thinks you've stopped, and then he stopped.
No, I haven't said anything for about 30 seconds.
See, now you did it right over Sleeping Warrior.
Yep. Now he's justifying not doing it. I don't get it. What's going on? Why is someone on my own panel?
He's got a lag issue and he doesn't realise it, and he thinks that he's not stepping on people when he is.
Right.
Count to 5.
But the Hangout's not that bad.
Okay,
You can hear people. You can hear when 2 people are talking at the same time.
Yeah, every single time I go to talk, it's when there's a space, and I obviously have lag, so I'm very sorry. It happened before, and that's why I left, because everyone told me off for it, and I'm still using the same internet, and that's why I always bag out the NBN here. So I'm sorry. I tried to talk when there's a space.
Mind warp. I'll send you a message on Skype. I want you to go and do a test for me and tell me what your ping result is. I'll message you on Skype.
The speed test, yeah.
Okay, lovely stuff. Where were we in housekeeping? Can we move on from Coriolis deviation or not?
Good morning.
I think the
Good morning,
last one was axial rotation.
Say again, Neil?
The last one was axial rotation, I think.
I think we've covered it.
Reference frames ruined.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. No drift. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Definitely not.
Nope.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press on? Like when you're weighing gas, you need a container.
Oh, they say gravity.
So, yeah, versus the outer space vacuum gravity. No. The amount of gas you would require in order for gas to locally find some kind of pressure equilibrium and then even form weather systems and all, while it's simultaneously venting off in outer space at seemingly unlimited strength and speed. That's what? How? Where's that coming from? Is there like a white hole of gas over on Earth? In order to vent out those levels of gas, you have to get pretty fantastical. Nope.
Rumpus says all you got to do is step on a scale.
Yeah, but we were talking about gas. Then I asked, did you see that, Anthony?
Yeah.
He's not.
Tony?
Rumpus was talking about gas. Did I see what?
He was talking about me stepping onto a scale when we were talking about gas pressure without a container and how the sky vacuum would be an area for the gas to fill. And he said,
when you step on a scale, all that does is measure how far away from equilibrium you are relative to your medium. He says it's measuring a force, but they're not force measuring devices because obviously your weight is defined as mass times little g, and that's given the definition of weight. But we know that little g is not an acceleration due to gravity, so it can't be measuring a force. It's a direct contradiction of the term weight.
Sure, but we were talking about gas.
You can't weigh gas without a container.
That's correct, yeah. You need the container. Even if you measure it in pounds per square inch, that square inch that they measure the pounds per square inch, that's in a container. It's hypothetical, it's conceptual, but they put a container around it to quantify it, right? That's the problem.
Well, pounds per square inch would be pressure, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not weight. Weight is something you can achieve with a container, and then you can force a load of gas into that container, and inside the container, the gas is still trying to expand in all directions. But there's more of it inside a solid container, so you can produce a greater downward vector. Well, it doesn't change the fact that without that container, the gas would expand in all directions to meet whatever containment it's in.
Yeah. It's
Can I say it in another way, perhaps? So without a container, weight is basically extracted from relative density, medium versus object. Well, you can't weigh gas without the container because otherwise the gas would become the medium. And when it's equal, when the medium and the object is equal in density, then it's neutral. There's no force. There's no disequilibrium going on. See?
I get that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It did to me.
Even without a medium, if you just open the valve on a container full of gas at the bottom of a vacuum chamber and just release gas into it, what's it going to do?
It's going to replace the medium.
It's just going to become the medium. It's going to expand in all directions to fill the availability of volume. That's what gas does. They've got nothing in there, it becomes the medium. You introduce different gas, there's going to be an interaction based on those two different gas densities initially, but eventually the gas will just disperse. That's what gas does.
Yeah, I had somebody send me a clip from where ballers were talking in Jose JG's panel, and they were all saying that there's a gradient formed when you let the gas fill the available volume. They were arguing that there is a gradient within that volume, and regardless of whether there is or is not, no evidence was presented despite being asked for to support their assertion that it was. Now, what then happens is they say, well, can you prove that it's not? And obviously you're then proving the negative.
I can, though, easily. Show me a balloon that's got unequal pressure. So it's very deflated at the top and all the gas is pulled at the bottom. Do you ever see a balloon like that, Anthony, where you've got a deflated bit at the top and all the pressure pushing at the bottom because there's a gradient inside it? Or is it equally dispersed throughout the volume of the container, in this case the balloon? All directions?
Actually, I have, yes. If you look at NASA's balloons, when they're the very saggy ones that are very, very flaccid, you can see that they've got a continuous bubble at the top where there's a lot of hydrogen or helium or whatever they fill the balloon with.
The bottom. We're talking about a gravity argument where they say the gas has got a differential with the greater pressure at the bottom. And because gas go down, go boom, boom, right? So we need the gas to go down, not up. that's.
I know, but you're asking, have you ever seen a balloon where there's a gradient? And the answer is yes, because you can see it with the NASA balloons. You can see that the top of the balloon has got a lot of helium or hydrogen in the balloon that's trying to get to find its equilibrium, but the balloon is harnessing it and stopping it from doing that. Sure. And towards the bottom of the balloon, it's very flaccid because there's not enough volume in the medium.
Anthony, so you're saying in that example, less pressure at the bottom. Well, they're arguing the opposite of that, aren't they? More pressure.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so that's what I need to see. Not a balloon with more pressure at the top with the gas trying to desperately go up. That kind of pisses in the face of their gravity assertion. I'm saying from their perspective, if they say, no, you can have a differential in this balloon, and their assertion is, gas go down, go boom, boom. It's more at the bottom, down, go boom, boom. Show me a balloon with more at the bottom then, with a saggy bit at the top.
Well, they have to throw liquid nitrogen over it for that to happen.
Okay.
Where did they come up with that anyway?
I think that makes the balloon burst if you do that.
Because I remember Zanuck used to constantly say that gas goes mostly down. Now I don't hear it anymore. But where'd they come up with that?
They just made it up because they've got a gas pressure gradient. That's true. We do have a gas pressure gradient. Gas is produced at ground level. It gets less as you go up. But it's still going up. That's why there's gas up there. It's made its way up. It didn't just hang around like bouncy balls and all fall down. Bearing in mind that the only reason it's up there is because it's made its way up there, having been produced at ground level. So it doesn't go down, go boom, boom, mostly down. But they want it to, because how else are they going to explain how the gas is still here when they've got a sky vacuum for the gas to fill, when gas, by way of natural law, fills the availability of volume? And if the sky vacuum, outer space, was a space for the gas to fill, then it would fill it and we'd all be dead. So what are they going to do? They're going to say, no, gas go down, go boom, boom, like solid bouncy balls when you pour them in a fish tank. Because they've got clowns like Thunderfoot telling them what's what about gas behaviour. When you've got idiots telling you how gas behaves, when it clearly expands in all directions, and that's why you got gas up high, it's made its way up, you're going to need to say, well, it wouldn't keep going into the sky vacuum, even though it's made its way up to the top of Everest. It would stop. Why? Well, because it's actually going down. Well, no, it isn't. It's going up. No, it's going down. Gravity. It's like bouncy balls. Just thick. These people are retards.
But how else are they going to make all those CGI images of Star Trek and Star Wars make sense in their minds? They have to somehow make it seem like it makes sense to them.
It's the other way around. The Star Trek and the Star Wars are making them think that the reality they've got in their mind, that's totally in violation of natural law, that bit's real. So it's the other way around, Darwin.
Wait, what?
You're saying, how will it keep their reification of the fantasies when they don't have a possibility of a sky vacuum in real life? But it's the other way round. The sky vacuum they see in Star Wars and Star Trek makes them think they've got one in real life.
Yeah, okay, but that's an
Yeah.
argument of what came first. Yeah, you got a point.
What about Spaceballs?
Yeah, but that's true. That's how they teach people how all of this crap works, right? Because they only give you like the cliff notes in school, right? Everybody learns what they know about space from the movies and the TV, right? That's how they teach that shit to you, right? Everybody remembers the alien being sucked out of the ship, right? In Aliens.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a good move.
that's one of the times you really understand, like, wow, vacuum of space is crazy, because just a little hole in that ship sucked the whole alien out of it, right?
Yep.
Well, I saw that shit when I was a kid, and I was just like, wait a minute, that's how the fucking vacuum of space works? That's insane.
But
So
it's
Nathan's
slightly
right.
worse. It's slightly worse with the alien because he also has acid blood. So as he's basically being ripped open by the vacuum, the acid blood is going to aggravate the hole as well. Sorry.
Yes. Make it bigger.
See how well the movies work?
Yeah,
Can I ask
they
you
show
one
you
question?
that, but then they take it to real life and they say, oh, there's a hole in this tin can that's 250 miles above our heads. And some astronaut decides to put his finger in it, and that works out. See how the model is ridiculous?
Yeah, Chocolate, further to that, right? So imagine that hole is on Earth side, according to their rhetoric, so we're into the fantasy of a space vacuum, right? So they claim the light in the sky that you can see flying past is this tin can, as you correctly assert, with people on sound stages and high wire. Now, in their rhetoric and their narrative, a hole gets produced in the side, right? So literally, you can look out at the hole if you're one of those guys and see all the gas rushing past, potentially sucking your eyeballs out as you look through the hole. And if you're Earthside, you're looking down at all of the clouds and high-pressure gas on Earth, and right next to it, you're looking at the blackness of a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. And you're looking down on no worries, it's just there, the gas isn't escaping. But yet from this tin can they claim that light is, he's got to be concerned about the gas escaping. So what is it that Neil deGrasse Tyson says? It's 2 millimeters above the beach ball. So 2 millimeters above, looking down on the high pressure gas. The big ball below you doesn't have to worry about natural law, but the tin can above it does.
Exactly. The irony, right? Gotta love it.
Did Star Wars take place in the future or the past?
The past.
In a galaxy far, far away.
It doesn't say.
Long time ago.
Oh, well, like it, yeah.
Talking
long
about
time
it.
ago.
Right.
It's
It's
made
the
in the
past. I
60s.
think we might be onto something there.
Made in the 70s, rather.
Yeah, right. In a galaxy far, far away in somebody's mind 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah, but a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It's a long time ago to him. You know, long is kind of relative anyway. So,
Those
and
times.
so is far away. You know,
It
far away
happened
could be like, yeah, around the halfway around the world. Now I'm saying it again, in somebody's head.
Yeah,
So-
George Lucas, he made $6 billion selling it to Disney.
And he regretted it.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, they messed up the whole storyline. And he regretted it.
I'll give you 6 billion reasons he didn't regret.
I'll agree with that.
Sorry, guys, I dropped out. I had to get my internet fixed.
Okie dokie.
So, any evidence for gravity?
Scientific evidence of gravity, please.
Oh, sorry, yeah, scientific evidence, yeah. Always start with the definition for gravity because they don't like the definitions. They don't like that Einsteinian one. They want to go back to the Newtonian one. So always ask them for that and make them bloody define it.
There's no evidence, but I must say Flat Earth ruined my Star Wars.
Yeah, mine too.
Didn't for me. I love
There's a
it.
few-
Except, you know, the old Star Wars is still great for me. It still really is. It's still a really good magic trick. Modern ones and just modern movies, sci-fi movies in general, you know, but it's not ruined because I know about flat Earth and space is fake. No, it's ruined for other reasons, more cultural shit and just,
No,
making
Interstellar
it
was
seem
great.
unnecessarily stupid and all that.
You guys remember Insanity
Blade
is
Runner.
Sanity?
No.
Do you
Blade
remember
Runner.
that YouTuber? Insanity is Sanity made a video specifically about Star Wars, the video game, about 3 years ago, which was big at the time. And his video was specifically about this. Does knowing that it's all bullshit ruin the game or not? And he was like, nah, not really. Look, I'm blowing up Ewoks here. It's ace.
Right.
Well, the only thing that
Yeah, but you
bothers
can't
me
watch
with
it
the
with the
sci-fi
same
movies
mind.
today, the only thing that bothers me with the sci-fi movies today is like, how the hell do they get it more realistic than NASA?
Well, because they design it aimed for the mind and not for technologically realistic.
I don't know.
That's why it works so well. That's why it's designed to stick to the mind so much.
No, I don't know if I agree with that. Hold on. There's an answer.
One
to
of
this.
the best games.
Go on, Mind Warp, go on.
One of the best games that works in the past is Assassin's Creed, and it's a great game. You know, and that works in the past.
Michael Knight.
The past, anyway.
Michael Knight, otherwise known as David Hasselhoff, he was asked, does it spoil it that Kit was just a program with a voice that you never even spoke to? None of the buttons worked. It was completely false car and all that. And he was like, I'm driving Knight Rider. How can that be shit?
And the sound effect is really cool.
Yeah,
I'll give you for instance.
He didn't meet the actor who was playing Kit or voice acting Kit for like months after they even started filming that show.
I'll give you for instance. Right before I became a flat earther, I saw that movie Interstellar, and I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, I agree.
Then when
pretty good.
my eyes were opened, I'm like, oh my God, this is such bullshit.
No, it's not.
Okay,
it's just very over dramatic. It's still great.
Sorry, can we just save the Interstellar review? Hello. So no, I think there is an actual explanation for why we get crapo vision from NASA and super high res, super quality, sharp images from the movies. Well, Dilly Gill gives a really good breakdown for why that is the case and why he terms it crapo vision. Why you'd get crapo vision from NASA. And it's so that they can fake it easier. That's the only reason. And when they're faking stuff that they show you as being a live broadcast, they're using two cameras, one that's a bit higher quality and one that's absolutely god-awful, played on a tiny television to an audience with a good enough distance between them and the screen, news broadcaster style desk in front of it pointing away from the screen, so that they can just fake it seemingly live while they're filming it, and then they put it all into post, put a fake ceiling in and produce it at a slightly higher quality, still nowhere near the movies, and then pump that out as being the same exact broadcast, but it isn't. So crapo vision, as is termed by Dilly Gill. Go and check him out. DILLYGILL. That's who exposes why you get low res crap vision from NASA. Check it out.
It's almost very close to dilly gaff. It's a saying here in Australia, dilly gaff.
What does that mean?
Do I look like I give a F?
Do I look like I give a fuck?
Dilly gaff.
Right. Dilly Gill.
Dilly gaff vision.
Yeah, but Dilly Gill. So Dilly Gill is a YouTube channel. It's not like a full-time YouTuber, but he does dedicate a huge chunk of his time to researching a very, very narrow subject. So he's focused on not just NASA, but a very specific era of launches and missions from NASA, because they're the ones that he can expose it in the way he's researched it the most. So he's hyper specific about what he's dealing with and ultra detailed, very thorough, more thorough than anybody else I know in this subject, in fact. More than happy to stand by that. Dilly Gill is ace. I can't say enough good stuff about Dilly Gill.
Dilly Gill, is it? I'm trying to search it now.
I've watched all of his videos, which are at least 20 to 40 minutes long, at least. You know, normally a bit longer. I've watched all of them at least 3 times. Shared them countless times. Very underappreciated
the one with
channel.
the Morgan Freeman logo?
Yes, with the what's in the box. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Found him.
So yeah, Dilly Gill. Like I say, I can't praise him enough. I'd praise him for the rest of the show. Because he's ace. I just appreciate someone that does that sort of research, because frankly I lost interest in NASA. So where I'm like, even in the show I've said it, why do I have to justify what planes do to you? mind warped. It's like, that's not Coriolis effect, so who cares? And in the case of NASA, it's like they're operating in a sky vacuum. That's a fake place. Who cares? But then when you see someone like Dilly Gill who says, it takes a very different attitude to it. It's like, but how are they doing it? How have they convinced us this place is real? This is what they're doing. This is how they've done it. More power to him.
Yeah, and I'm guilty as charged. I do like still. Yeah, I don't mean to butt in, but when I say my hypothesis, it just a lot of the time it doesn't matter because I'm still running on the whole like globe BS. So yeah, I understand when you cut me off. It's all good.
Did we do distance to the
It
sun?
doesn't matter.
It doesn't, exactly. But Dilly Gill's still focusing on it because it's a massive aspect of the deception. So, you know, in terms of when we say deception, there's very few things that I can actually say that's a deception or a fraud. That's how he phrased it. I'm going to change that. Not deception, it's a fraud, what NASA are doing. And he's exposing that. And it's important. As much as I can say, I don't need that to debunk NASA, I can just say, well, where are they operating? Second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum called space. That's a space for the gas we're breathing to fill. If this, here we go, we've got a view from like mock quasi, you know, it's got the Death Star in it, but nevertheless it gives you the point, right? If this was the ISS and on the other side you've got a little hole and you're looking through the hole going, oh no, all the gas is coming out into the vacuum. What are we going to do? We'll put a finger in it to stop it happening. But then you're looking out the hole at all this high pressure gas and what's next to it? A vacuum. It's absolutely absurd. So I don't need to debunk NASA pointing out the high wire and the special effects and the two different camera angles and the crapo vision. I don't need that to debunk it in debate. Is it not fascinating to everybody who's now out of that programming to see how you were duped? Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. Did we do distance to the sun?
No, we haven't. Is there any evidence for the distance to the sun?
I don't know. It's somewhere behind the clouds.
What's the sun? Oh, it's a hydrogen helium plasma ball made by fusion and all this nonsense. And how do you know that? Because we can spectroanalyze it with spectrometry. Oh, really? That tell you that it's true, then real, physical, right?
Don't forget it's in a vacuum.
I was going to say, don't forget the fact that it's a second law of thermodynamics violation, and pointing to it with your fundamentalist religious belief that it's a burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum. You know what that does? That proves the sky vacuum! Other than it being a begging the question fallacy.
I know what the best answer to the question, how big's the sun? Just put your thumb up to it and say it's as big as my thumb, and that's about as good as you can get.
Can someone show me flames in a vacuum, though?
Nature abhors a vacuum. What vacuum?
The sun has no size. It only has an angular size to the observer.
It keeps moving.
Yeah, if the audience has
no evidence for the distance to the sun, then just no bit of maths. Kepler's third law.
Not even evidence of its size.
Apparent size, apparent distance. Nothing actual.
Yeah, I love how Christine Huygens assumed that Venus was the same size as Earth when he assumed that he could work out the distance. And then based on top of that assumption, he assumed that Eratosthenes was correct when Eratosthenes assumed that Earth was a sphere for his calculations. When he did his shadows and sticks in the ground measurements to calculate the circumference of Earth. And if you calculate based on an assumption that we're on a sphere, and then Huygens then assumes that Venus is the same size as Earth, all of a sudden you can apply Kepler's third law on interplanetary motion and change it from a ratio all of a sudden to a shitload of distances, and then you've got the solar system calculated out within scale. But that's all based on two assumptions. What happens if you don't assume anything?
So it's just back engineering then?
Yeah. What happens if you don't assume that these sizes of these lights in the sky are the same size as Earth, and don't assume that Earth's a sphere because it seems to be that way based on your measurements of shadows? Well, then you've just got back to Kepler's third law and you don't know what the hell you're looking at.
Yeah, because everything's just assumed.
Well, then why can't we assume we're on a flat Earth then?
Exactly.
Don't need to assume it. What are you assuming?
I don't need to assume that.
When it's measured.
That's what I see every day.
Not only that,
can't declare it then?
Look, it's not a claim that we make. You don't feel movement. You don't see curve. What's the claim about it? It's reality.
Well, I'll change my word. Declare.
Ballers often cite up when we talk about the distance to the sun. They often cite up Sly Sparkane's measurements when he did he did a test where he got everyone to measure the zenith angle relative to midday on the equinox, and basically collated all the evidences. And as Nathan pointed out when we did this live at the time, he didn't show the other end of where the lines meet up. But also that if you look at his actual data, there's always two. I think there's two of them that are significantly out compared to all the others. So how are they explained? And the answer is, well, it might just be an error on behalf of the guy calculating it, right? But these ballers are so precise that they can never make possible mistakes, could they? They're always accurate, right? So let's not consider that they're human error. Let's just consider that something else might be going on, because you shouldn't have any irregular or slightly weird, obscure results. They should all be consistent, and they're not. So not only did he not show the termination point for all of these points, he didn't explain why he had the erroneous ones, and that explanation kind of indicates that maybe the sky might be holographic because something else might be going on. I don't know. I'm just wondering why he had erroneous ones in the data that he collected.
Sure. Well, we can answer that. We tracked it. The thing's not a tangible item. But what's the zenith angle, Anthony? You mentioned the zenith angle. What's that exactly?
Oh, it's the measurement from vertical, Nathan. They measure the angle from your zenith and then calculate where it should be in the sky for on a sphere of a given size and the sun's so many far away. And then they correlate that and say, yeah, it matches with our model.
Yeah, but the matches with their model bit is where they take your zenith. So they're saying that if they take a line, if you imagine as an audience member, you're standing up straight, bolt upright, and you draw a line from the sky directly down through your body towards the ground, straight, plumb. Well, that is a zenith. But their zenith is pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, is it not?
Yeah.
So when they take zenith angles and then calculate where the sun's going to be, they're already assuming that these people in these different locations are bent around a spherical surface because they're taking zenith angles. So they're begging the question.
Yeah, of course. Anything with the
correct. Your zenith and your nadir is just pointing to radius. Just assuming a sphere before you make your measurements.
Yeah, Bev try thinking gets rumpus on that all the time. He won't accept it though. He's cornered. He won't accept it, and somehow he manages to try and weasel and super explain himself out of this all the time. And Bev's like, "Nah, you're not having that."
Yeah, but honestly, you can't.
I know. Bev's absolutely right. Rumpus is just being a weasel, and he knows all the angles. Rumpus.
Yeah, well, Bev and I have been taking Kolaski on the last few weeks on parallel and level and stuff. They keep double downing.
Hey, Paul.
How do they double down? What do they say?
Are you talking?
We don't assume a sphere, but all the datums they use are used as from a sphere. Yeah. Every single datum they used assumes a sphere.
Of course. They can only make this assertion by automatically assuming the surface they're measuring spherical. Or, if they're actually measuring it, assuming they're standing at their starting point on a spherical surface and then measuring it flat on something called a tangent plane. The tangent would be the assumption of a zenith angle, and it's pointing towards the centre of a sphere. And then they measure it flat on a plane. But at some point...
you see, Go on. Their problem now is Bev wants to set a new horizontal datum. They say, now why would we want to do that?
Yeah, we're not begging the question, but why would we want to do anything other than assume a sphere in the first place? Why would we want to do that?
We've got a globe on. It's popped in.
Well, Rumpus don't deny it. Rumpus says it. Of course they know we're on a sphere. I've heard him say it many a times.
Oh, they're gone.
Yeah, because there's certain times when they deem it appropriate to just declare they're begging the question fallacy in the form of, well, we already know, because I'm going to make that assumption in my next example. So they say it's perfectly acceptable to beg the question.
Did you see the NASA footage that I'm showing you right now? It's high def. There was an astronaut in space. He actually filmed this. It's gas pressure in space. Can you see that? It was filmed. It's high definition. Okay,
very good. Very good.
This is legit. I didn't pay for this footage at all, and it's not CGI. Well, maybe it is actually.
Very good.
I thought you might like it.
Yeah, inside that container, you've got petrol, and that's liquid, and there we go, it's gas. So it's gas pressure without a container in a vacuum. I mean, you've done one step better, really. Excellent work.
It could be anything.
Why isn't the rest of the gas filling it? What's going on there? Why is this gas here, right, on this little edge? Why isn't that filling this 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum? What's going on there?
It pools on the floor, Nathan. It's as if there's like I mean, I tell you what, Nathan, there was a guy that did a video against me, and I've not even responded to it because he was so putrid, and he was doing the old 2016 thing where it starts off with just trying to make me look silly. So I just completely ignored him, even though I was dying to respond to him. But he basically demonstrated a salt solution in water, a bit like my egg video. And he did a really good job at demonstrating how you get a pressure gradient inside a container. And one of the points that I really, really wanted to say to him, and I couldn't keep it in. I mean, there was lots I wanted to say, but I decided to ignore him as best I could. But I just couldn't get this one. I couldn't keep this one under my lid. I says to him, how did you get your pressure gradient without a container? And he's like, and I said, yeah, you need the container to get your pressure gradient, isn't it? And why is that? Because the pressure gradient is disequilibrium, right? And it's caused by disequilibrium. And then you need the container to get that pressure gradient. But he glosses over it and doesn't think it's an issue. And I'm like, yeah, this is the issue, you idiots. One of the many things wrong with your video, but I don't want to go into all the others because you're just nasty. But yeah, pressure gradient because you need the container to get it. It just drives me mad.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. Probably not ever.
So you really think one day they'll be able to?
Why not? They've got plenty of phenomena.
Well, they would have to step away from their, fantasy story Ponzi scheme in order to do that. That's what they probably want.
See, the problem is they just first assert the sphere, and then they make equations, and then they think that's the natural phenomena. Remember, equations make predictions. Now, predictions is all of a sudden science.
Yeah, hijacking science using maths. Covered this in the pre-show about the magic trick with COVID. Well, it's all statistics. It's not science. If you've been paying attention to this show, you'll realise that. You'll ask yourself, what's the scientific evidence for this? And what they present you, you'll look at it and you'll assess it for whether or not it's a cause and effect relationship that's been established through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis, or if it's maths. We cover molten iron core?
Yes, we did.
Nobody's covered
did.
the molten iron core. No, we haven't. Nobody's ever covered the molten iron. They just believe that it's there.
And
Neil
no,
meant
it
in
hasn't
this
been
show.
brought up so far.
Say again?
It hasn't been brought up yet.
Yes, it has.
Okay,
What is
Has it?
the actual?
Okay, I missed it.
What is?
we'll cover it twice.
What
Let's
is
not
the
argue
actual
about whether or
claim
not it's
about
covered.
it?
Just, is there any evidence of a molten iron core? Yeah, just say no and we can move on.
No.
No.
Moving
No.
on.
I just want to know what's the
100%
actual
agree.
claim
internet
about it.
waves.
No.
Anthony had to do it. What are these? What does that stand for? What's the P stand for?
No idea, but I heard conspiracy cat say it, so it must be true because he's a teacher.
Good answer. Good answer.
Apparently, there's no
But
possible
seriously,
way they could possibly work if it wasn't a ball.
Has-
People
has
honestly
some-
think that we've drilled down there and we've got proof. Like we've only drilled 12,000 kilometers, and that's as far as we can get. We can't even get through the crust.
Not
12
12,000.
kilometers.
Of
12.
Yeah.
Not 12,000. 12.
Was that?
Just 12.
12 kilometers, sorry.
Yeah. 12,000
So
meters.
12,000 meters. Yeah.
I've walked
I'm
further
pretty sure it
than
was
that.
Russia. But I mean, that's quite a good effort. But even then, you're breaking their chips. And how can they even prove that there's an iron core? How do they know it's iron? Could be diamonds.
I don't know. Remember,
They
we
made
all
up a
come from
story.
rocks. Remember, we're all rocks. We come from hydrogen.
Complicated rocks.
It could be hollow.
If it's diamonds, it would be another facet to their argument.
Oh, boom, boom. Not very many diamond fans.
I
diamonds
literally
are
just
great
got
uncles?
that joke. Sorry, that was so slow. I just literally got that
Nobody
joke.
got
That
it.
was really good.
Nobody knows anything about diamonds. If Cammy Nodal was watching, she'd have got it. She'd have laughed.
I really should have played the ding.
Well, it is the Ring of Fire.
Boom, boom.
That was a good joke, Tam. Well done.
Right, that concludes the housekeeping. I think that's it. We've covered everything.
Don't they claim that there's diamonds on one of the planets, supposed planets?
Doesn't one of them rain diamonds?
Yeah.
One of them rain. I think it's Saturn or.
I think it's a moon, actually.
No, it's
I
Saturn
think-
or Jupiter, something that rains diamonds, as far as I know.
Now, how do they know that?
Yeah.
Because they see it.
Sorry, are we talking about the planet in a sky vacuum that rains diamonds?
Exactly.
They just use spectroscopy.
How crazy does that sound? How can people actually believe that?
I
It
don't
just
know.
sounds so stupid.
It sounds like a James Bond film. Raining diamonds.
There's a couple of James Bond films.
It sounds
with
like a
diamonds
Rick
in
and
them.
Morty episode, to be honest with you.
In the clouds of Saturn and Jupiter, it
Very,
rains
very-
diamonds.
Very important that people think diamonds are valuable. So
I like
Yes.
That
And
gaseous
they're not
planet
locked in a
down
safe and
south.
like slowly distributed out to like keep the price high.
Hey, I got a whole
Right.
story on that if you
And that's
want to
just
hear
what
it.
Compression is a bitch, eh?
that's just what they tell you.
Exactly.
That's like fairly common
Mm.
knowledge. What you've just stated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a job for a diamond guy. He told me the whole story. He said when they find the diamond mine and they threaten to flood the market, they go with them and they say, don't be a schmuck. How much do you want? And they give them, forget about the amounts of money they give them just so they can control the release of the diamonds. Yeah, that's a well-known story.
Just been reliably informed from the chat. The Adam Meakin says Nathan Oakley supposed to be on Neptune and Uranus. Or Uranus, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
What about Uranus?
Well,
What'd
I
you
just
say?
shared in the Master B. It's Saturn and Jupiter. Apparently, it rains diamonds in the clouds of Saturn and Jupiter.
Saturn and Jupiter, so not Neptune and Uranus, as I was reliably informed by Adam.
No.
I
So,
see.
so Nathan, if you want to be rich, just take a trip in the sky vacuum to Saturn and Jupiter and become a diamond hunter.
Can't.
Stand there with the umbrella.
Yeah, you can't travel in a
Just
sky
get in the
vacuum.
next Tesla car.
Where does it
Yeah,
say
Elon
that?
Musk is going to get there first.
Sorry, where does it say? Somewhere in this article.
You can't
there
blame
you go.
Elon. Yeah.
Then why
I do
the
like
hell?
Elon because I work with batteries, so his new 18650 technology is awesome, but that whole launch was fake as F. I'm trying not to swear.
Hold on.
If
This is
diamonds
a bit
are
of a problem.
raining-
Have you guys read this?
This whole thing.
Have you guys read this? But in the dense atmospheres of planets, begging the question, like Jupiter and Saturn, whose massive size generates enormous amounts of gravity, which is not a force. Crazy amounts of pressure. Hold on. Crazy amount of pressure. Pressure would be the force a gas exerts on the walls of its container. This is all very nonsensical. Nevertheless, this is what astronomers do. They make up little stories about the lights in the sky. That's their job.
I know where it originated. There were two guys at the pub because it happened over De Beers.
Come on, Nathan.
Isn't it carbon or
These two
charcoal
planets
that's
have
put under
eight-
pressure to make diamonds?
Look, it's just their conclusion that they're going to make. Look, it says it squeezes the carbon in mid-air. Air. So we're definitely talking about pressure with air then. Get it right? The force it exerts on the walls of its container. But in mid-air, we're creating gas pressure that's so enormous through gravity, which is not a force, that it makes it rain diamonds. That's what it says.
But there's already a problem.
Can Tent Man say that?
But
again?
Everyone's got the
problem.
black lung.
I already made a problem. They stated there's gas.
It's okay, Neil. You got it. That's all I'm happy about.
You guys just don't get it. These are
The
very big
beers.
planets. They're very, very high pressure, open closed systems. Okay. So
Thanks, Sly. It's a closed
Yeah, but you
system
know
that's
what?
open.
High
Hold
pressure
on,
to make a
Flat
diamond,
Side.
right?
Go ahead,
It's
Flat Side.
carbon or charcoal. So there's going to be a lot of black lung disease on those planets.
We heard it the first time. Go ahead, Flatsoid.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Go, Flatsoid. Go. Go. Go.
Come on.
Come on, you can do it. Go, Flatsoid. Go.
Sorry, I was trying to unlock my phone up. I couldn't type the password. Okay, what must I... Oh, it's about Sly and his open closed container.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Apparently now he's taking me on saying I took it out of context. I told him to come on the show and actually talk about it, but, he runs away. Because he thinks the Earth is a closed system that is open. The same as, if you take a fish out of a fish tank, out of the water, you can't take things out of an open system, apparently. Got a very screwed up way of thinking about systems.
Yeah, well, you're talking about gas, though, eh?
Gas and liquid are two different things, I hope.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about the gas, this high-pressure gas that's claimed to be on a sphere Earth in a vacuum.
Yeah, you see, they think it's like an airplane. Cabin pressure, open valves and closes valves. So somewhere around Earth,
I don't
we've got
believe
some
it.
kind of valve opening and letting people in and out everywhere.
So check it out, right? I can't believe
the
this.
Danik valve.
Adam, ever the conscientious claimant, has sent me his back. He hasn't corrected himself, but I was like, it seems my reliable source, Adam, wrong. No, not at all. Adam, absolutely spot on with another reference that says, no. Neptune and Uranus, or Uranus, have got the raining diamonds. So kudos, Adam. Absolutely love it, mate. I knew it. I stand by it 100%. Adam is ace.
Yeah.
This is it from American Scientist. Absolutely epic. Thank you, Adam.
So what do you think that they would consider putting on their rings if the diamonds are so abundant there? What would they put on there? What's their precious metal
They'll put gas pressure there without a container.
Commodity item.
There's diamonds on the rings of Saturn.
Wait,
Put a jerry can on the ring.
Did Adam just debunk my bullshit with his bullshit?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yep.
That's just what's happened. Adam just debunked Chocolate's bullshit with his own bullshit. Both bullshit, both nonsense. We're laughing at both claims, but it seems that, the heliocentrists have got a contradiction. What a shock.
But I thought everything about the heliocentric model was true.
They just make it up. The astronomers just make it up.
The rings of Saturn are made of diamond?
No, Neil. These things are claimed to be gases in vacuums. No, none of this is true. It's all nonsense. If the sky was a vacuum where this is all claimed to be taking place, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Massive thanks to all who shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
A lot of pressure.
Oh, heat does help.
It does help, but you can't do it without.
So how does it form there? So that's the point. So why does it form over there on the gas planet in the outer ring and where it's colder supposedly, and not in Jupiter and Saturn?
Arwen,
it makes sense because it would be harder on the rings.
Guys, can you not hit Flatsoid? He's trying to get a word in.
Excessive pressure gives heat.
Okay.
Right.
So there's your heat.
Yeah, okay. But beside that point, it still doesn't make any sense why there would be diamonds on the outer gas planets and not on Jupiter and Saturn, which are also huge planets.
But what is a planet?
Yeah, hello. Sky vacuum. Hello. Lights in the sky.
Yes. But I'm trying to figure out what was the technical virtual reasoning they used behind it. What are the mechanics they used to decide upon this?
They didn't just made it all up.
So you just said,
Darwin, it's just a carbon copy argument. Don't worry about it.
Look, they just back-engineered the light movements and then gave you a just so story to go along with them. That's all they've done. Back-engineered, very predictable patterns of light in the sky, and then the astronomers have given you a little story to go along with it. It's just that simple.
yeah, but doesn't compression of a substance make it cooler, not hotter?
In a vacuum.
Hence, like an air conditioner,
and that's happening in a vacuum, right?
It's increasing the pressure to make it
in a
colder.
vacuum, in a sky vacuum. Is that's where this is supposed to be?
I'm talking about in my
right?
air conditioner, but yeah.
No, in a vacuum though. Is this comparable to being in a vacuum? Is it?
I have no idea.
Right, but that's where this is all claimed to be taking place. This is all claimed to be taking place in a sky vacuum.
We're all making claims right now. I was just trying to, yeah.
I'm not having a go at you. I'm just saying that every claim that is being made about bloody diamond rain is taking place in a sky vacuum. A second law of thermodynamics violation place that they say the light's in the sky is.
But interesting, you won't have heat without a containment. It's so simple. Just that we have heat alone already demolishes their globe argument.
Yeah, it's a tangent to the gas pressure. You're right
as well.
You're right. It's a tangent, but you're saying the heat would be the antecedent for the heat would be the gas pressure, and the antecedent for the gas pressure would be the container. So you're one step along, but you're still right.
And then also the antecedent for an air conditioner to be cold is gas pressure.
There's a lot of things that need containment, and they say that we've got an open system next to a vacuum with gas not filling it in violation of natural law. And that place is where all these diamond rain claims come from, about the lights in the sky.
But do you want to know where the heat comes from?
Is it a kettle?
I would hope so. You see, the pressure by itself does not produce the heat. It's the increase in pressure that produces the heat. The same as with the piston pushing in a cylinder. So you actually need containment to have the pressure to have the heat.
Right. Yeah, I totally get it. You're right.
And chemical reaction, chemical heat also, of course.
Yeah. Bottom line, there must be containment for us to have gas pressure. And a lot of things that follow on from that also require the gas pressure in the first place. So we've got to have containment.
So that's interesting that you mention it, because you also require containment for fire, like even oxidated fire. Remember, rocket powder and all that. It doesn't work in a vacuum, even when you point lasers at it. So even for chemical heat, you also need gas pressure, and for gas pressure, you need containment. So
yeah. So almost everything we experience wouldn't be experienceable if the sky was a vacuum.
That's what I was meaning. Every single reaction that we need pretty much needs a container. Am I wrong?
Not exactly. You've got to have the circumstances permissible to do the thing in the first place. So without having a circumstance permissible to do those things, which would be a contained environment with gas pressure in it, then you wouldn't be able to do those things. So you can extrapolate that 5 steps along to almost anything. The point being that any of those examples, so if we just take the first step from the gas pressure, which was Flatzoid's heat, well, you take that 2 steps forward and you go, well, where do we get the pressure? Well, we need containment. So the sky is not a vacuum.
This just makes me think of gravity dome.
Well, I've reasoned out that because of these problematics, these practical physical problematics with vacuum supposedly being out there, it would be a more viable course of action if they want to go with the viable course in the first place. They seem to do this craziness on purpose. Or if they would want to go with a more viable route, they would eventually conclude that outer space is not a vacuum, but it's just lower gas pressure, slightly lower. And then deal with the mechanical consequences of that setup, which are going to be a lot easier to fill in than to try and justify everything happening in a vacuum, which is just so utterly impossible.
How are you going to do that unless you've got Earth at the center of it all, producing the gas for everything everywhere?
Circumdicular geometry, Nathan. Circumdicular geometry.
Sorry, forgot.
It's much easier to suspend your disbelief about the Earth, about it being a globe, than all the other things. That's why there's people out there that are conspiracy theorists or researchers in all kinds of directions, including creation versus evolution and all that. But they still hang on to the globe because it's much easier to hang on to the globe and change everything else than to actually also change that globe. So maybe they can rearrange the way it is officially conceived that the outer space universe is supposed to be. Maybe.
They did in the 90s. They pushed the Tor gradient out to the moon. They just never told anyone. And then when it came up here, suddenly they were bringing up this dusty old nonsense about it having a pressure gradient right out to the moon. You're still going to have the same exact argument, though. How can you have any of the pressure in the first instance without a container?
Well, that's just a minor move, really. I'm talking about not that much lower gas pressure. They're just saying, no, the gradient stretches out more and more and more. It's actually not that high. It's still extremely low. So
how can we go?
I discussed this with some globers.
You must remember they work in ratios. So they just change the ratio to suit whatever they want to work. That's all. So if they change it later on, it's just going to change a ratio again to suit whatever's debunked next time.
Yeah, they did it with the distance to the sun. They can do it with almost anything. You're absolutely right. Just change the ratios. But what Arwin's describing is our system, though. He's saying, well, no, but in line with natural law, I might add, we've got to have containment. And Arwin's saying, well, what they're considering space is just the outer edges of where we're contained. It's just maybe further, and that's what they think space is. It's like, well, what you mean an area inside the container that's just very high up? Well, how high can we go? Do you know?
Nope.
Neither do I. I know what NASA tell us.
Right. And we don't even know for sure that if this is another cosmogony speculation. We don't know for sure that if this container that basically determines how the air pressure is divided in the gradient here, if this is the final container. It's much easier to assume this, but we don't know that for sure either. So we don't know the full spectrum of this design that we live in.
Just point out that Adam and Chocolate are in the Skype laughing their heads off about them contradicting each other with countering nonsense. I just think that's quite amusing that they're laughing their heads off at each other about this convoluted nonsense at the end of the live show.
See, this is why I like to push with them that everything is separate systems. Even if they keep it as a single system, as space is a single system, you still have big problems because then you're stating that you won't be able to.
Sorry, but I'm just think about it. You could, if you want to, as a mind experiment, compare the Earth realm to, for example, cellular life. So what is this about cellular life that we consist of? It's all compartments with containers. But there is interaction between the inside of those containers and the outside, and the other cells, and the room in between. So maybe the Earth realm is like that.
Hang on.
It's just multiple containers.
Did you get this from the intro to Men in Black?
No. I literally just made this up on the spot here.
I'm pretty sure this is the intro to Men in Black.
Okay. Well, every idea we conceive is probably is being multiplied everywhere. People come onto the same ideas.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun. That's what you're saying.
Sorry?
There's nothing new under the sun.
It's very, very hard to conceive of an original idea that has never been conceived by any human being ever. That, if not impossible. And then there could be the argument that God thinks of all the ideas first and then hands them out to the people.
It's impossible to prove that you are the only one, because how would you disprove that someone else hadn't conceived of it in the past before it was capable of maybe technologically being produced? You couldn't disprove that, so You're right.
That's a big problem, and that's also a control mechanism at it. Removal of information makes you in control of that information, whatever it is.
Owen, imagine you are just a toy soldier in some kid's room somewhere. Would you see that kid as God, as the all creator, or would you know that there's something beyond that God? How would you know?
Don't ask Arwin, ask Paul. Here is Paul. Although you feel free to answer, Arwin, but...
I don't know. What would my thinking capabilities, my consciousness, and my sensory range even be from that vantage point? I don't know what it's like to be an inanimate object that is suddenly animated.
Paul's got issues.
Is it a spirit of a person that's possessing it that I'm trying to imagine, or what? Sorry,
what if we're a science project for some alien?
Go on, Neil. What did you say? Go on, Neil.
What if we're a science project for some alien teen?
Yeah, again, that's the Men in Black intro.
I should watch that movie again. It's been a while.
They do it on each movie, right? They do a wide-angle zoom in. So it's a similar idea to what you saw in Contact. And in Contact, it starts out in the presupposed universe and zooms right into her in a bedroom when she's a kid, listening to radio or tuning into ham radio or whatever she's doing. Anyway, that idea is done in Men in Black, but they zoom out. So it starts off with, the concept in the second movie where they've got a cat that's got a whole universe that's just dangling around its neck. Well, that's the same concept. Yes. It's the same idea.
Yeah. The microcosmos, macrocosmos marble.
Exactly.
That's an old alchemical concept.
Right. But that's all you're extrapolating out when you say, well, perhaps we're just part of a network of cells that are all connected together as closed systems. And within that cell, we've got us as our existence, and the lights that we see are just the outside edge of our cell. And next to it, there's other... Well, that's the same idea.
Yeah, I guess.
It's funny because I actually had that on the second one as well, when that guy had the whole universe in his head. Remember that guy?
Yeah, or in a locker. Exactly. Or in a locker.
Yeah. And he opens it up and they're like, all hail the watch, they don't know what's going on outside the locker.
Yeah.
That's if people understand.
Hey, and when you go at it like that, you could also imagine that every cell of your body is almost like its own miniature realm, and that have their development, their history, period of how the build up, the degeneration, poison from the outside, recovery or death, just like an entire realm.
That's a Futurama plot. That's a plot from Futurama with the worms.
Yep.
We are a giant game of marbles.
Jesus, Arwen, don't you have any original ideas?
No, this is just a fractal way of thinking in a macrocosmos microcosmos setting.
In Futurama, when that happens and the worms take over control of his body and they make him superhuman. So in other words, they're massively beneficial, but they want control. In other words, it's not going to be his body anymore. The parasite will eventually take over. So to get around it, he shrinks himself down, goes inside his own body. So he puts his consciousness in this tiny little being, and then goes and chops off part of his own brain. He's like, I'm not going to let you have it, so I'll just destroy the place. Starts hacking bits off, and they're like, right, we're off then.
Wow, I've never seen that one. That's
it's the guy. It's Matt Groening, the guy who does Simpsons.
But Futurama was awesome. I actually liked it more than Simpsons.
Me too. I loved Futurama, and again, another thing that's based in space, right?
You've got to love Hank Azaria though on The Simpsons. He was very talented.
They got to keep space real.
Yeah, well, in Futurama, because it's obviously set 1,000 years in the future or something about that sort of figure. The guy who's from our time is told that they're going to deliver a package to the moon. So they jump in the rocket, and he's like, oh, "I'm so excited! I can't wait to do the journey." And they're like, "We're here!" Like 4 seconds later, it's like they just bang, they're there because it's just over there. Now, obviously, the implication is that the ship's so fast that it can do that journey in 2 or 3 seconds flat, right? But for him, he's like picturing it being a long journey because that's how it's portrayed in the heliocentric model. and the trip to do the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum that's portrayed with NASA. They then proceed to take the piss out of the moon landing non-stop while they're up on this sky rock. But anyway, that's Futurama.
I love the episode when he wakes up and he's like, he went to his bank account and he had like a couple of bucks in there when he first went into the cryogenic thing and got frozen. And then he wakes up and he's like, the interest, you've got like however many million, it'll get you a drink. I thought that was brilliant. Like he's got like $1 million, but he couldn't buy anything. Had no purchasing power.
They had the same plot in Red Dwarf, but it was for an April Fool's gag. So the computer explains that it's the other way around, actually. So he's left a light on before he gets put into suspended animation. And as a result of the single light bulb he's left on, he now owes Norweb, or the electricity company, like 20 billion or something ludicrous. But that's right. And simultaneously, he had a couple of bucks left in a bank account, and he owns all the wealth in the entire universe because of compound interest.
I love that show. That is no one ever talks about Red Dwarf. That is a brilliant show.
That still is my favourite TV show. I mean, even though it's space-based, because it actually helped me with my understanding, because a lot of it's based on a brief history of time. That's where they got a lot of the concepts from. So when people are like, oh, it's actually quite realistic, it's like, well, yeah, they've researched the heliocentric model and then put a lot of the concepts, black holes, white holes, all that sort of stuff, has all come from current rhetoric. So when you're watching it, you think, well, that's the point, isn't it, right? That's why the show was successful. Part of the programming. So of course they're going to promote it. It's using the current rhetoric. So it's back to the idea of Superman being able to fly around a globe. You suspend disbelief that Superman can fly, and you accept it because you're at a movie, not realising that subliminally you're being programmed with the idea of Earth being a sphere and Superman flying out in a sky vacuum, space. Well, the same exact principle works with you suspending disbelief when it comes to them fighting off the crazy aliens that they meet in that episode, and accepting the fact that they're having to negotiate through black holes, because that's what they'd be doing in space, isn't it? Now, you don't realise that that's also a suspension of disbelief. You just suspend disbelief that there could be 5 on top of each other that they're having to negotiate in Starbug. That's the bit that you suspend, or think you're suspending. You know at least a surface level that, well, that's silly. You don't think, oh, well, black holes and space, that's silly. That's already ingrained, but being reinforced subliminally.
I suppose the only downfall from Grace from Lister there is when he went on to, was it EastEnders? And then, no good.
Craig Charles.
Didn't he go to EastEnders, or was it the other one?
Yeah.
What's
he
the
went to
other
EastEnders,
pommy? They went to
that would have been much
EastEnders.
more profitable. That would have been much better paid.
Hey Nathan, by the way, what you described was pretty good. I would categorize that in conscious programming, where you know it's programming and you're going with it, and subconscious programming, where you're very unlikely to be in the know of it. That's how they divide it up. That's how they get the subconscious programming through, because it's kind of a controlled opposition mechanism, because you know there is something distracting there. It's kind of overt. You think that's it.
Probably that's why they don't have any flat earth cartoons around.
Well, that's one of the things they've been trying to covertly get in there constantly from the start. And I'll bet you that way back in the day, there were plenty of grandpas, if they even knew about it, that would be like, oh, the media, yuck. They're always trying to fool us in the stupid globe they have to show in every single movie out there. They would probably discourage their children even from going there, but eventually they would, get caught up in everything and do it anyway, as usual.
Yeah, but from when you're born, what do you see? You just see a globe. So every generation is going to grow up seeing that, and that's what they're going to believe.
But it wasn't always like that.
Yeah, they just changed the narrative of generations, that's all.
Is it not beyond our mathematicians to make the stars near or far?
In R we trust.
It's from the torture
Well, they
scene.
can model anything.
From the 1984 torture scene. The guy torturing him is explaining that the people who run the show can make the world be whatever they like. With maths.
Correct.
That's why the Truman Show was so good.
Yeah, and it doesn't. This again, the subliminal levels, even the names. True man. Who does true man represent?
Us?
The true
The general
man.
public?
Right. Who does Christoph represent?
Well, and the falling light on there that has the written supposed star system on there. There's a lot of subliminal stuff on there.
Yeah, the light
I
that
can't
falls
remember
from the
what's-
sky is called Sirius, the dog star. But who
Yeah,
does
serious, yeah.
who does Christoph represent? The guy who talks to him literally from the sky?
Jesus.
Yeah, Christ.
Oh, yeah. I
There's-
never really
there's-
thought about that.
Most people watch Truman and haven't got the vaguest idea what's actually being said to them. Not a clue.
Yeah, most people just look at it and think of it as a stupid comedy, but there's like, even for me, I didn't pick that one up, but there's a lot of hidden messages in there. Yeah, a lot.
Come on, guys. It's just a really trendy Big Brother experiment.
All I liked about it was the clouds on the wall. They painted it really well. Very
That
realistic.
scared me. That
Jim
scared me.
Carrey talks about when he filmed that, and he reckons it was like a mind screw.
The bit with the clouds that you pound, I saw it at the cinema, and I'll never forget it because it was the best sub-bass note I've ever heard. So the boat crashes into the side of the dome, and it goes boom, and it made me jump in the cinema. And I was like, wow, what the hell's happening? Because it really got your attention. And then it takes you a second to realise that he's poked a hole in the side of the dome.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, they did that very well, that moment.
What does he do just before he walks out of the door?
He
True
gives
man.
his final, his typical greeting. Good
No.
morning.
Yeah,
Brian.
what does he not say? What does he
Stretches
do?
his arms.
He stands like Christ.
Stretches his arms.
Yep, stands like Christ in a crucifixion pose, then walks out the door. Gotta watch Truman again. Just watch it again. There's loads of people who've done breakdowns, but the most recent I can think of is probably JLB, and he's talking about the two pillars. So when he goes to pick up the light that's fallen from the sky, the dog star light, he stood between the two pillars, and he connects it to. I don't want to ruin it. Just go and check out JLB's coverage of Truman, or Truman, I should say, not True Man. Saying it the way I shouldn't be saying it.
But this makes you think, why do they, even if you have planetariums, why do they use a domed surface?
It's a good question. I mean, at least at the first surface level, most people will get it with Truman. So, for instance, when she's doing the advertisements in the middle of his life,
He's like, "Who you talking to?"
yeah, you know that sort of you're always being advertised to, even if you're unaware of it, kind of vibe. The like pointing out that this kind of pollutes your life. That most people will get. Because it's only scratching the surface of the levels of the Truman Show.
I could have said you didn't have a camera inside my head.
Sorry, Flat Sword, go again.
So to be fair, and a lot of movies they're bringing out lately are showing also the same type of some messages, you could say. I mean, look at Catching Fire from Hunger Games. It's the same thing. Even the Simpsons movie was a dome.
Right. Well, again, we've speculated before on this show about how it could be the case that we're part of the system. There's a slow release valve that's being opened. The narrative's fallen apart for whatever reason. Or we're a bit too up our own arses, and in fact we're just part of the ridicule system. It needs to be brought to the surface level to a certain degree so people realise it's being ridiculed and needs to be ridiculed and why it's being ridiculed. Hence you have the popularity levels of the anti-flat earthers going through the roof. even though they've got the same tags and titles we have, well, we get shoved down to the bottoms of the listings and censored from view. Well, that's part of the system.
I was going to say something before, because I think we have affected a larger community than we think, because if you go to the NASA live feeds and you read some of the comments, it's all mocking them. Even some of Vsauce, if you read his comments, it's like there's people mocking him about space. So I think we're reaching, or the flat Earth itself, not us, I mean just the whole reality of flat Earth is reaching far more than we think.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!